They wish to make the world a place of smoky darkness, where hope and cheer are crimes punishable by immediate slavery and slow torture. Theirs is an endless greed that neither time nor wealth can ever abate. They commit blasphemy by turning away from the ancestor gods and practicing magic. Magic, I tell you. They are our greatest shame, and they will be dealt with in time. Who are the Chaos Dwarfs? The Chaos Dwarfs, or the Dawizar, are an industrious, dark-souled, and merciless warrior race of dwarf demonsmiths, slavers, and brutal killers that dominate the dark and cheerless landscape of the Darklands to the east of the Old World. At the heart of the Darklands lies a region filled with innumerable blackened factories of hellish forges and massive armories, a dark, heartless, and nightmarish industrial empire, the likes of which surpasses all others in the known world. Long separated from their fading kin of the West, the Chaos Dwarfs have given themselves over to their dark master, the minor chaos god Ashut, god of fire, greed, and tyranny. The Chaos Dwarves are the darkness and evil of the dwarf race given form. As chaos slowly mutates even the notoriously resilient dwarfen physiology, inflicting twisted terrors on their minds and souls so that they have become a spite-filled and calculatingly cruel reflection of what they once were. Unlike other dwarfs, the Chaos Dwarfs are deeply learned in the sorcerous arts, and have become obsessed with the control of hellish forces and the fires of the deep earth, combining the dark lore they have gleaned with an artisanship and skill for metalwork and industry undimmed from their ancient past. They build the greatest and most infernal war machines the mortal world will ever know, hulking cannons the size of houses or shrieking rockets that could obliterate entire villages into ruin. From their massive, mile-spanning hell factories deep within the Darklands, shielded by deadly mountain ranges and set amid desolations of industrial waste, the empire of the Chaos Dwarves has faded into legend to many in the old world. But those forced to confront their implacable black iron-clad armies and savage war engines know the truth. The day may yet come when the armies of dread Tsar Nagrand march forth once more, bringing their infernal war machines to sow misery and mayhem to all four corners of the world. I'll say this, and it will be the last I speak on this subject. The so-called Chaos Dwarfs are traitors. They betrayed our people and way of life. They are the walking dead just waiting for my axe to remind them. Many thousands of years ago, the dwarf race moved northwards from its ancestral home somewhere in the Southlands. They moved along the high ridge of mountains known as the World's Edge Mountains, following the trail of mineral ores and precious gems. The dwarfs spread amongst the mountains, driven onwards by their lust for secrets of rock and metal. Over a period of many hundreds of years, they dug shafts and excavated cavernous underground cities. They sank mines deep into the mountain roots and constructed tunnels which carried them further north. Eventually, sometime in the dim and distant past, the dwarfs reached the upland region at the far north of the World's Edge Mountains, which they called Zorn Buskul, or the Great Skull Land. Here they found a vast and inhospitable plateau where the air was thin and cold and the rocks barren. Many turned back south to swell the growing numbers of dwarfs in the World's Edge Mountains. Others turned west into the cold lands of Norska. But some of the most adventurous turned east and then south along the bleak mountains of Morn. At first, these widespread dwarf kindred maintained contact with each other, but the eastern dwarfs stayed far, and when the great catastrophe came that brought chaos into the known world, The northern regions were cut off forever from the lands to the west. The dwarfs of the west believed their eastern kin dead, destroyed by the tides of chaos that came from the north. But they were mistaken. Chaos did not kill the hardy dwarfs. Instead, it worked a dreadful change upon them. The Chaos Dwarfs are a great shame to our people. The signs were there for all to see, and yet we ignored them. We're all Grunnies, yes? Our blindness has led to the creation of an abomination in the east. One it would do well for us to end. To survive the eruption of the realm of chaos into the mortal world during the Great Catastrophe, the Chaos Dwarfs turned to the evil bull god Hashut, god of fire, greed, and tyranny, whom they call the Father of Darkness. Hashut laid his blessings upon them, and for the first time, magic users arose among the dwarf race. The Chaos Dwarf sorcerers now rule the rest of their people with absolute authority, for they are not only powerful mages, they are also the priesthood of Hashut. They are strange and tortured beings, greatly skilled at the blending of magic into their ingenious engineering. Dwarfs were never meant to wield the magic of chaos, and the price they pay is the curse of stone. Each Chaos Dwarf sorcerer will inevitably, one day, slowly transform into an immobile stone statue. The change starts with their feet, which turn gray and useless, before progressing throughout the rest of their body. Many of them use their sorcerous engineering to construct new steam-driven bodies for a time, but they too eventually succumb to the curse. Their immobile forms now line the road leading to the center of their mighty empire, the Tower of Zarnagrand, city of fire and desolation. The tower is a terrible obsidian ziggurat that constantly throbs with the pounding of hammers and the screams of victims sacrificed in molten cauldrons to Hashut's greater glory. It is the labor of generations of slaves surrounded by mountainous piles of displaced rock from the mines that gouge the landscape surrounding the tower and slag from the countless forges of the Chaos Dwarfs. At the apex of the tower sits a vast temple dedicated to Hashut, which is watched over by the fierce bull centaurs. Bull centaurs long ago mutated from Chaos Dwarfs, doubtless after Hashut had an influence on the race. They have the lower bodies of bulls and the upper bodies of heavily muscled but fanged Chaos Dwarfs. They are fearless and terrible, reveling only in the spilling of blood and glorifying the Father of Darkness. From then on, the Chaos Dwarf Empire continues to grow stronger and stronger for centuries. For centuries, the Chaos Dwarfs ruled supreme over the Darklands, their furnaces and workshops ceaselessly churning out infernal war machines by the dozens, each one destined to bring only woe and misery upon the wider world. Fueled by slaves, the Chaos Dwarfs were masters of their own dark, twisted world until the day came when the slaves rose up in rebellion and nearly spelt doom for all their kind. During that forgotten age, the Chaos Dwarfs grew weary of the constant animosity and infighting of their green-skinned slaves, and so sought a solution that will make them much more obedient towards their tyrannical masters. With the aid of dark magic and the selection of the largest and strongest of their green-skinned slaves, they magically bred the first Black Orc into existence. If this story were true, then their experiment turned into a complete catastrophe, for their ill-fated attempt to create a more disciplined and highly coordinated green-skinned slave force only made them the perfect leaders for their brethren to rise up and topple their sadistic rule. The magical abilities of the dwarf sorcerers could never erase the strong sense of independence that all orcs possess, and when the greenskins rose up in rebellion, the great uprising that followed almost led to the complete destruction of their entire empire, making it as far as the doors to the Temple of Hashut, the very dark heart of the Chaos Dwarf Empire. However, in their hour of triumph, only the timely betrayal of their hobgoblin allies spared the dwarfs from their complete and total annihilation. Physically, Chaos Dwarfs resemble other dwarfs, for all dwarfs are resistant to the influence of magic, and so Chaos has not warped them to the gross degree it has some other creatures. Apart from their long tusks, they display few other mutations that Chaos normally brings. Some develop bull-like features, even cloven hooves, and occasional horns. These mutations are rarely seen amongst Chaos Dwarf warriors. It is Chaos Dwarf sorcerers who are most likely to show the mutating effects of magic. Unlike other dwarfs, the Chaos Dwarfs are extremely learned in magic. The Chaos Dwarf sorcerers run the Tower of Zar Nagrand. They are the masters of their race, directing the labors of the slaves and the conquests of the armies. The Chaos Dwarf sorcerers are also the high priests of the Chaos Dwarf's god Hashut, the father of darkness, whose burning temple sits atop the mountainous city. The iron statue of Hashut is wrought in the form of a gigantic bull, which glows red hot with the heat of the burning furnace within its metal belly. The Chaos Dwarfs sacrifice captives to their god by throwing them into cauldrons of molten iron or tossing them into roaring furnaces. The Chaos Dwarf Empire has no equivalent to a High King, nor any form of a central figurehead. Instead, the delegations and running of their dark empire is usually run by a cadre of high priests of Hashut. These sorcerers rule over the Tower of Zar Nagrand as the lords and masters of the Chaos Dwarfs and high priests of Hashut. Their lore is deep and ancient. The study of machines and magic combined to produce arcane engines of power and destruction. It was Chaos Dwarf sorcerers who constructed the city in past ages, who carved its shape from obsidian, and raised its dark towers and fashioned its massive gateways. They are few in number, probably no more than a few hundred amongst the whole Chaos Dwarf race. There is no leader, nor formal hierarchy amongst them, but the strongest voice belongs to the oldest and most powerful, for Chaos Dwarfs respect age and knowledge just as much as other dwarfs. The domains of the Chaos Dwarfs have come to encompass the fire-scorched volcanic plain of Zarduk, at the heart of which Zar Nagrand sits, and like a black iceberg its real extent lies not above with its armored ziggurats and fire-lanced temples, but below the surface, in countless miles of magma-lit delvings, cavernous chambers, and vaulted mines which resound to the cries of tortured slaves, and the ringing of hammers in an untold number of diabolic forges. The Chaos Dwarf civilization has grown apart from the influences and developments of the old world, and has acquired a distinctive character of its own. Chaos Dwarfs wear armor made from metal scales, bound together with flexible wire that makes a strong but pliable defense. This armor is usually painted red. They wear extremely tall hats, which are as much a symbol of status as they are for protection. Depending on his expertise, a Chaos Dwarf's helmet can be a distinctive shape, or may be decorated in a specific way. The most important Chaos Dwarfs wear especially large and elaborate helmets. Chaos Dwarfs are master craftsmen, and their armories produce an endless stream of armor and weapons, dark devices, and works of demon-fueled occult engineering. Much of this war gear, the lesser products of their craft, blades and steel whose quality still outmatches any mere human craftsmanship, is traded northwards to the warring, chaos-touched tribes, and eastwards to the ogre kingdoms in return for slaves, for which the Chaos Dwarfs have an unending demand, rare metals and gems, and to slake whatever strange desires the Sorcerer Prophet's experiments might require. By this trade, blood is spilled across the world by their weapons, and in doing so, the Chaos Dwarfs both enrich themselves and sow destruction in Hashut's name, and moreover, they spread their insidious influence even further. gathering intelligence in regards to their enemies, and so bring their dreams of domination closer, one drop of shed blood at a time. The greater works of their hell forges and the spawn of the dark intellect of their sorcerers, however, they guard jealously for themselves, and it is on the bedrock of these malevolent engines, savage weapons, and brutal sorcery that the Chaos Dwarfs' true power is found. Chaos Dwarf warriors are themselves equipped to the highest standard, and every sorcerer lord arts and outfits their soldiers to their own design, and in their own distinctive livery. The majority of their troops are armed with masterfully crafted axes, vicious stabbing blades, and barbed war picks, and protected by heavily scaled corselets of rune-hardened iron or bronze, tall helmets, and heavy metal shields. A significant number of troops are armed with firearms, from intricate wheel-lock pistols to bratty-bladed fire-glaive repeating guns. But the hail-shot blunderbuss, a powerful short-range weapon whose murderous fire is amplified when used in ranged fusilage, is the most common and iconic. This last weapon was developed to combat the near-limitless orc and goblin hordes that abound in the lands around the Chaos Dwarfs' domain, and has become the terror of the greenskins in battle, able to mow down the orc charge and slaughter scores of howling goblins in a single thunderous firestorm of lead. There are relatively few Chaos Dwarfs, and each and every one of them belongs to one of the Chaos Dwarf sorcerer's body and soul. Chaos Dwarfs are an unnerving sight in battle. They are brutish, grotesque figures plated in black with burnished armor of heavy plate and jagged scales, crowned with tall helmets mounted with flame-tongued spiked coronas or sharpened horns. Their livery is bright and bloody, and their distorted faces, if they are seen at all, are bestial, filled with malice. Their presence is intended to inspire fear in those foes, and they have lost none of the toughness or skill at arms of their western dwarven kin. To them there are few greater pleasures than the bloody sundering of a foe, be it by crushing axe blow or flesh-shredding volley of blunderbuss fire. Alongside these warriors, Chaos Dwarf armies make extensive use of their slave force, most notably their orc and goblin slaves, which are often overseen by hobgoblin overseers. Yet, the true might of the Chaos Dwarfs does not come from their rune-etched weapons or black powder rifles, but from their massive war machines that accompany each and every one of their armies. In the creation of arms and the diabolical engines of destruction, the Chaos Dwarfs of Tsar Nagrin have no equal in the world, save perhaps for the Skaven of Clan Scryer. The end result can occasionally be no less dangerous to the hellsmith or crewman called upon to direct such a weapon, but to the minds of Chaos Dwarfs, such calamity that may result will be caused by the result of weakness or ill discipline of the operator, or be it the will of Hashut, rather than chance volatility or shoddy workmanship. I know this was a bit of a different video, one that I have not done in the past, but with the soon arrival of my most anticipated faction for Warhammer 3, I wanted to do a little lore touch-up for anybody who's unfamiliar with the Chaos Dwarfs. Just a short overview of their culture and a little bit of in-depth detail to some other aspects of them. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I am very much looking forward to this DLC. There is some trailers that were dropped, and you guys should absolutely check them out. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day or night, wherever you are. Please be nice to yourself and kind to others, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!